What's up, family, and welcome back to another episode of the Melanin Wellness Podcast. Today, we are diving deep into a plant that is both powerful and dangerous. Pokeweed, also known as American nightshade, red ink plant, cancer root, and a whole list of other names. This plant has a long history in both traditional medicine and folklore, but before you go foraging, let me warn you. Pokeweed is not a plant to play with. It can be highly toxic if not prepared correctly. So let's get into its history, its medicinal uses, and its risks. But before we begin, you know how we do over here. We always begin with 30 seconds of gratitude. Today, I am grateful for the sun coming out because we have gotten a tremendous amount of snow where I live here in recent days. So I am so grateful that the sun came out today. I am grateful that it is the weekend because I need a break. Y'all, I'm tired. There's been a lot going on in my world, and there's just a lot going on in the world in general. And so I'm just grateful that it's the weekend and I get the chance to rest when I am done recording. I'm also grateful for new opportunities and expanding my brand and expanding the podcast and growing into other countries. Shout out to all my new listeners in Canada. I appreciate you. And now that is definitely more than 30 seconds of gratitude, but that's okay because I choose to focus on all the amazing things that I do have instead of getting so caught up in what I don't have. All right, so full disclosure, y'all, I used to eat pokeweed or poke salad, as my grandmother used to call it when I was a kid. And I remember she would make it with neck bones and cornbread. Y'all, and just in case you couldn't tell, I was raised in the South. I don't remember it making me sick or anything, but if I sit and think about it long enough, I can still taste and smell it as though it's cooking right now. It's funny how certain things like that can, bring out such vivid memories. I just thought I'd share. So you might be asking, what exactly is pokeweed? This plant grows wild across North America, particularly in the South. You've probably seen its deep purple berries hanging in clusters or its tall reddish stems. And while it might look pretty, every part of this plant, from the leaves to the berries to the root, is poisonous if it is consumed in large amounts. But here's the twist. Pokeweed has been used for centuries in folk medicine, and some researchers believe it might have potential health benefits. Now let's take a walk back in time to view how our ancestors used pokeweed. Native American tribes applied it as a poultice for skin conditions, ulcers, and even tumors. In southern Appalachian folk medicine, the juice of pokeberries was believed to treat hemorrhoids. Sounds wild, right? I know it does to me. I don't. It's just the things that I'm discovering during this series is absolutely amazing. There are so many things that I did not know. But it doesn't stop there. Some folk practitioners used it for gout, pneumonia, rheumatism, and even typhoid fever. And if that wasn't enough, there are even records of pokeweed being used as a sedative. I can believe that. What? A sedative? Yeah. But before you start thinking that this is some kind of miracle cure, let's talk about the risks. Eating raw pokeweed can cause some serious stomach issues, nausea, vomiting, and cramping. And in large amounts, it can be deadly. So when folks use this plant medicinally, they had to know exactly what they're doing. And I'll be honest with you, clearly, you had to know what you were doing when you were cooking it as well. It was often prepared in specific ways to reduce its toxicity. Even today, some people in the South eat poke salad, SALLET, a traditional dish made with boiled young pokeweed leaves, but only after they've cooked it multiple times to remove its toxins. So that just makes me think back to how knowledgeable my grandmother must have been with this particular plant, because I don't remember anybody getting sick from eating it. I just remember it was good. Now, it did have a bit of a bitter taste to it, if I can remember it correctly. but it was really good. So, is pokeweed just an old folk remedy, or does it have a real health potential? Well, some studies suggest that pokeweed can or may stimulate the immune system. It's even been researched for its possible effects on high blood pressure and certain other diseases. But, and this is a huge but, most of these studies are in the early stages and scientists still warn about its toxic nature. So at the end of the day, pokeweed is one of those plants that really walks that fine line between medicine and poison. Our ancestors knew how to use it carefully, but it's definitely not something to experiment with on your own. So if you ever see pokeweed in the wild, admire it from a distance, but don't start munching on those berries, please. So family, tell me, what did y'all think? What do y'all think? Have you ever heard of pokeweed before? Maybe you've seen your grandparents or elders using it in some way. I'd love to hear your stories. I just shared mine with you. Drop me a comment or send me a message to the Melanin Wellness Podcast at gmail.com, or share this podcast episode with somebody who loves learning about herbal medicine and ancestral healing, or someone who may have an experience with pokeweed like I have. And if you are enjoying the Melanin Wellness Podcast, and I really hope that you are, please consider supporting the show on buymeacoffee.com at the Melanin Wellness Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and keep the conversation going. Stay safe, stay informed, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. Take care, family.